The Badgers strike fast and they strike pretty effectively in the portal, picking up the number one ranked defensive lineman per on three. Let's talk about it. Big pickup for Wisconsin.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Saturday, Badger fans. Happy Axe Day. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Throw your comments in the chat. Game predictions. What are your thoughts? But first, we got two commitments we got to talk about. One is Brady Beckenhus, who happened a little bit ago, about a week ago. I just haven't had a chance to talk about him, but I went back and watched film of the 2026 offensive lineman, high 3-star, low 4-star. He's a stud, man. I'm going to put his film up. You guys are going to like watching this. We're going to watch some of that together. But we have to start with Jibriel Conde committing to the Wisconsin Badgers. And it's been a minute since we fired the cannons, but let's set those suckers off.
Fire the recruiting cannons. Another one is headed to Madison on Wisconsin.
Oh, doesn't it feel like, before we get into Conde's game, we're going to talk Beckenhus, we're going to talk Gophers. Again, throw your score predictions in the chat. Doesn't it feel like there's real momentum now? I mean, and I get accused of being optimistic all the time, except for I got some feedback. I was maybe too pessimistic on the basketball reaction show from TCU, which maybe I was. Maybe I was too pessimistic there, but in general in football, I'm pretty optimistic, I think. But doesn't it actually feel like there's momentum? Like maybe this corner has turned a little bit. You have a couple of the wins. You have the vote of confidence. You've picked up a couple commits. You're going to spend more money. It feels like there's multiple data points here where now you're starting to connect the dot or connect the line, and those lines are pointing upwards for Wisconsin football. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Let me know in the chat, but it feels like in today's game, is a massive part of this. Win today, get the axe. You'll notice I haven't changed my background show picture. It's still get the axe. But we have to talk about Jibriel Conde. Let's throw up here so everyone gets the particulars. Jibriel Conde commits to Wisconsin Badgers in the portal window. So this is the first portal player that the Badgers are going to add this class. Played the last 2 seasons at Grand Valley State University, which there is a obvious connection on staff, right? You have Coach Matt Mitchell, who's the head coach there. Nizer Forkerin came from GVSU. So there's a lot of connections there, which probably would help seal this deal, to be honest. On3 has Conde as the number 1 portal defensive lineman in the transfer class as of now. So this is a big get. 6'5", 290. He's a guy, if you look at the numbers, had 30 total tackles last year, 6.5 tackles for loss for an interior defensive lineman, 2.5 sacks, 2 pass breakups. Going back and watching some film, well, here's a scouting report I pulled from another writer over on Fansided. He said, known for his imposing size and athleticism, this is a quote, Conde has impressed coaches with his intensity and potential to disrupt offenses at a high level. Physical traits and rapid development and upside have made him a coveted prospect. You look at the defensive line this year, you're losing Ben Barton. You're losing Parker Peterson. You're losing several pieces off this defensive line. This is a type of guy, I think he's probably a 1 or 2 tech. And for those, a 1 tech is you're lining up kind of on the shoulder of the center. I don't think this isn't a 0 tech, someone that you're going to put in front of a center, but I think you can line him up as a 1, which is kind of between that center guard. I think he can play 2, and I think he can play 3. I think there's versatility here. Went back and watched some film of his, saw some of the game against, I think it was Ferris State. So I was able to watch some of him, some of what he is as a player. Again, I need to learn a lot more about him, but I'll tell you, there's some burst and athleticism as a 6'5", 290-pound kid that is impressive. There's some clips of him on Twitter getting into the backfield quickly, generating pressure, generating disruption. This is a really good get for the Badgers. He's got 2 years of eligibility left, so you're getting a defensive lineman for potentially multiple years. I tend to think everything's a 1-year deal now in college football, but potentially you have a fit in that defensive line rotation for 2 years. I think there's times he gets a little stuck on his blocks. Again, just watching some of the film I've seen of him against Ferris State, some of the stuff on Twitter, it feels like there's still unlocked potential here. Long arms, he's twitchy, he's built well. I think he could carry another 10 pounds of weight and still maintain some of that burst and some of that twitch. Maybe think a little bit of a JVR Suggs type of a player, getting disruption, getting interior pass rush, but also somebody who I think you can flex him out. I think he can play some edge. I think he can play some end in bigger, maybe jumbo situations where you want to be stronger across the line, short yardage situations, those type of things. And if nothing else, he's another player that you slot into that defensive line rotation next year. You need depth. We talked about it 2 years ago, and it's been one of the best things this team has done this season is the depth on the defensive line. They can come at you in waves. Ben Barton doesn't have to play every snap. That's why he's so doggone good. Parker Peterson and Suggs and Brendan Lane, all these guys in that rotation on the interior, they're the reason why this rush defense is so good this year. This is just a tremendous get. And it makes you wonder, is this the kind of the first part of these dominoes starting to fall when they talk about more money being put into the program? Now you've landed the number one ranked per on three, the number one ranked defensive lineman in the portal. Now there's still more players that are going to enter the portal. That may not be ultimately what the rankings reflect, but this is definitely a high value guy. Offers already. He went in the portal about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. He already picked up a couple offers from Michigan State, West Virginia, Wisconsin. I think Auburn. I'd have to go back and check. Don't quote me on the Auburn one, but I know Michigan State was big on him. A couple other, Power 4 schools. This is a really good get. And this is a great start to the offseason because you can't have too many bodies in the trench. You can't have too many offensive linemen, and you can't have too many defensive linemen. You can't. And the Badgers are already quickly reloading that spot. Again, a big, big commit for the Badgers here with Jibriel Conde. Boom. Bucky says boom. Robert Sorensen, 24-17, Minnesota. Robert, what are you doing? What are you doing, Robert? Oh, dude, I love Robert too, but dropping in my hierarchy right here, Big Rob. Barron says Axe Frenzy's intensified. Phil Borgman, thoughts on Petit? Yeah, dude, I didn't get a chance to do a Jaden Petit show either. So Jaden Petit, 4-star player, and really I would call him one of the three amigos in this class. It was him, Latimer, and Hopkins as those three offensive stalwarts that you felt like you had to hang on to that troika. And yeah, I committed to Oklahoma. That's a major blow. I almost need a reverse cannon. Like, we fire the cannons when we get players. I almost need like a unloading of the cannon audio drop when we lose players. I didn't mean to not do a show on Petit, Philip, and thank you for bringing them up. I've just been really busy with reaction shows and holiday and Thanksgiving. Oh, man. I'll say this. I have a ton of respect for Jaden Petit. I think the world of his game. He's a really respectful kid. I like the family. I've had some great conversations with people in his circle, and I wish him nothing but the utmost success wherever he goes. I'm bummed that it's not going to be in Madison. I'm bummed that it's not going to be at Wisconsin because he is the type of player Wisconsin doesn't get much. You don't get physical 6'4" receivers from Florida into this program very often, and you need more of those guys. Brian Smith comes on here all the time and talks about you got to have somebody on the edge that terrifies defenses. You got to have somebody on the edge that forces a safety to rotate over. And I love Eugene Hilton. Jaden Petit is just a different skill set, and there's a reason Oklahoma went after him. He was incredibly productive this year. He's a great kid. Yeah, that one stinks. That one absolutely stinks, and it's a good get for Oklahoma. They got some former Badgers on that staff. I think Jay Valai's there. I think Keontae Lewis is there. I'm interested if there's some maybe negative recruiting. I don't know that. But either way, I wish nothing but success for Petit. But that's a major loss for this Wisconsin class. And now you look at this receiver room. You had Tayshaun Bardo decommit. You have LeGray, and you need – it's, again, shaping up to be a not very good receiver haul. And if you look back at the last several years, Wisconsin hasn't brought enough bodies at receiver. So it is definitely a bummer. Brett says, no, you are not pessimistic on the basketball team. They are not playing well. I appreciate that, Brett. Bird Dogger, 17-10 Badgers. Let's go. Let's go. Let's absolutely go. Brett says 12-6 Wisconsin. Snow makes it low scoring. Keep going here. More basketball stuff in here. Tim says, Conde is a Corey Walker-like player, defensive end, but can play inside too. Yeah, I think so. There's positional versatility with Conde. Again, we're going to talk. We're going to be back after the Badgers go for game, after the Badgers get the axe. I am picking a Badgers victory today, and I can't wait for it. But I don't want to bury the lead on this show. This is a big pickup for the Badgers out of the portal. And if you have to reload in a few spots. One of those spots is defensive line, and this is a great start for it. You have a couple guys coming back next year that I'm interested in. Xavier Uponu is going to be a big part of this team, I hope. You still have Jamel Howard on the roster. But you got to get, in my opinion, at least 2 defensive linemen in the portal. You got to get at least a couple bodies that you can plug and play like Legos. Plug them in, stick them on the board, and they're just not going to get moved off. You need a couple of those little Lego pieces that you can't ever get off with your fingers, right? That's what a tough defensive lineman is. You just can't move them off the board. This is one of those Lego pieces, I think. You could move him around. He's versatile. He's tough. He's experienced. He's disruptive, athletic. There's upside. I think he has to get better getting off blocks. He gets stood up a little bit. I don't think he's a true anchor. When you watch him play, I think if you try to put him in the middle of a Big Ten defensive line, Big Ten offensive lineman would probably move him around. But I think he is a JVR Suggs, Corey Walker type. And that's a really good player. And that's a player you need every offseason. Okay, let's take a second there for our quick friends of the show. And then we're going to come back and talk about Brady Beckenhus. Dude, his film is fun. If you just like watching film, let's check out Brady together. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Omaha Steaks. And listen, I love all of y'all that help support this channel. I love everybody in this community. And if I could get you all one gift this year, it'd be Omaha Steaks, because the holiday season is here. And let's take the stress out of buying gifts with our great friends over at Omaha Steaks. It's the perfect gift. Omaha Steaks almost makes it too simple, which is perfect for me. Whether you're treating yourself this season, or actually, I'm great at giving gifts. Seriously, I'm amazing at it. Whether you're treating yourself this season or creating something memorable for family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection to your door. And this is the best time to jump in. Their cyber sales here. The deals are huge. I love the variety. I talk about this all the time. When people hear Omaha Steaks, they just think the amazing steaks. But dude, they also have burgers. They have sides and desserts. They have everything you want. Plus, it's those tender steaks, those incredible, beautiful, amazing things that that you could give to yourself if you wanted to. And there's a great offer right now. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And you get an additional $35 off using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. It's Omaha Steaks, promo code COLLEGE. Terms to apply. See site for details. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is our incredible sportsbook partner, the official sportsbook of the NBA. And the NBA is a great spot to bet, right? Every day there's a full slate of games. You can do live in-game bets. So even if you miss the start of the game or if the momentum changes mid-game, you can get in there, snipe a couple live in-game bets, and then combine it for a single game parlay for a bigger payout over on FanDuel. Plus, you still get the futures, parlays, teasers, spreads, everything that makes FanDuel great. And you get a bet on the NBA. And again, the official sportsbook of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. Head over to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's come back into this show. And I felt bad about this one because I usually, as soon as anybody commits, I usually do a show right away. I think it's important. And with the holiday season and multiple basketball games and football games, I just didn't get this one out as soon as I wanted to. But I would be remiss if we didn't talk about Brady Beckenhus, who committed to the 2026 class about a week ago. High 3-star composite offensive lineman, offensive tackle coming out of he was committed to Boston College before he flipped. This dude's film is awesome. I'm going to put the film up. Then we're going to talk about what we see, what it means for the 2026 class, what comes next, how big of a get this player is, and where I think he ultimately fits. Let's put the film up here first, if I can find it. I think that should be it. Hold on one sec. Technical difficulties. I am sorry. We're going to try one more time to put his film up because this is film. If you're just a fan of football, you're going to enjoy this. Here it is. Okay. So we're going to play this film here. A couple of things when you watch this film, things that I really like that I enjoy seeing. First of all, watch him finish plays. He is to the whistle, bearing people. This dude should have a gift membership to IHOP because he's just a pancake machine. Again, it's finishing plays. There's a mentality that comes with playing offensive line. There just is. Like, you have to be wired a certain way to be a bouncer. You have to be wired a certain way to be a paleontologist. You have to be wired a certain way to play offensive line in the Big Ten. And that wiring means you bury people. You put them in the dirt and you play until the whistle blows. Because after a while, people get sick of getting buried. They get sick of getting bullied. And then they stop playing as hard. That's part of an offensive lineman's job, is between the lines to take the soul of the defensive line. That's part of it. And he plays with that requisite physicality, that requisite toughness. He finishes plays. But it's also, he does all that in a 6'6", 290 frame. Tremendous athleticism. You can see him pin, pull, get out in space and screens. He has great spatial awareness for a big man. Like, you can see him in space, lining up smaller players, putting them in the dirt. This is a player who I think is going to be an offensive tackle. I think he has the athleticism and length and frame to be a left tackle. But he could be a right tackle as well. But he's a player that you're going to be able to involve in, any type of offense where you want pulling offensive linemen, where you want somebody on a screen, where you want somebody in space. And then I also think he has the athleticism to kick and mirror faster defensive linemen. I mean, look, that play, some of these plays, you just have to sit back and watch. It's a ton of fun. I also like the positional versatility. You're talking about a guy who's played some center. He's played some defensive line. I think he could play either tackle. I like that in players. It's similar to me when I see skill players, elite skill players, also covering punts, also covering kicks. You just want football players. You want players who are going to do whatever it takes to win. Or you want players who are going to be on the field for 80% of the game, who are going to play center if needed, who are going to play defensive line if needed. He feels like a tough winner, to be honest. And I think this was a clip of him playing center. Again, you're just going to see a ton of physicality here. Here's defensive lineman. Watch that athleticism just swimming into the backfield. He's quick on his feet. For 6'6", 290, 6'6", 285, he is very quick and light on his feet. This is a player the Badgers got from, again, flipped from Boston College, but also picked up an Auburn offer. He's got a Syracuse offer. It is a really interesting prospect. And for a late get for the Badgers, you're not going to get much better than Brady, who they got into campus late. They got on him late. Obviously, you lost to offensive linemen. You lost Ben Novak. You lost Maddox Cochran out of that 2026 class. This is a great replacement. I'm going to be honest. I like him more than Novak. And it's not a shot on Novak. I like this film a lot. To me, he's a more than adequate replacement for what the Badgers lost. I wish they would get another lineman in this class. I think they're still working on that, but this is a really nice late pickup with high-level upside, high-level frame. Here you see the motor as a defensive lineman chasing down the screen from the side. He's just wired. He's wired to play. Great movement skills, finishes blocks. And there's actually some really nice clips. We talk every time, and this is true for just about every offensive lineman coming out of high school. They got to get a little lower, got to play with more leverage. But there's actually clips of him doing that. There's clips where he gets pretty low, like right here. That's a great clip of him getting low and driving and not just relying on kind of his natural God-given gifts. He already plays with some of that leverage. I just really like this pickup for the Badgers. I think they did a great job here getting on Brady. Okay, let's pause there. Let's take some of your comments and thoughts. Again, I think this was a really nice pickup for the Badgers, especially this late in the cycle. Oh, Blackwell ever says, I was crying when Jaden decommitted. Yeah, man. That's a tough one. Nathan says we got that GVS pipeline. I agree. That's a nice pipeline that they built, and that's a good program. They pulled a couple players from there. Obviously, Matt Mitchell's from there. I think Coach Whitlow coached there as well. They built a nice pipeline to Grand Valley. AJ Mack, Coach Mack, let's go. Growing out the beard, trying to look like Coach Mack. What did we get today? Was out plowing snow. We got a defensive lineman, transfer portal defensive lineman. I like the frame. I like the size. Pretty bursty. I think he's got to get a little stronger and probably a little better with his hands, but he's going to get coached up here. We got JB. Fire the cannons. What's up, JB? Mike Witt. Now get some receivers for Brian Smith. Oh, man, ain't that no joke. I've talked about this for a couple years. Like, let's give this staff a lot of kudos for Conde and Beckenhus in these last two kind of pickups, but the last couple years, they haven't gotten enough receivers. And I've said that. You can't have a class where the only receiver you get is Kyle Barry Johnson. Even last year, you need more than just Eugene Hilton Jr. And this year, you're looking at the receiver class that for a while was looking like it'd have 3 or even 4 bodies with Zachary Washington, who ended up going to Michigan State. And now it might be 1, and you lost your crown jewel. Not necessarily on the staff. It's hard to hang on to a Jane Petit when an Oklahoma comes calling, considering the year we've had. But it's a big loss, and you need more receivers. You need more bodies there. Smo, 24-13 Wisconsin. Let's go. Nice to add this guy, but I would rather have had Petit. I agree. Badger Bournemouth. I agree. I would rather have Petit in this class too, but it's not a one or the other. You could have had both. So I'm going to celebrate the guys we get, but also be a little frustrated that we lost Petit. Owen says, but he's the number 1 FCS lineman. Are we sure this isn't just another John Pius? We're not. I mean, it's a fair. You have to stack bodies. And in the portal, you don't have as long to evaluate people to build relationships. But I will say this, because of the staff's familiarity with GVSU, I feel better about the players that they're going to pull from there. There's going to be more of a connection there. There's probably going to be more, I don't want to say insider trading, but there's going to be more insider knowledge with players coming from GVSU. You look at a guy like Forkring. Forkring turned out great. I would argue he was our best cornerback last season, and he's a tremendous culture guy. So I think this is probably a good player. Again, I don't think this is necessarily a star. I think he's a Suggs, and someone in the chat, which I agree with, said Corey Walker type. But those are really good pieces to add to your defensive line rotation. So it's definitely, we don't know, Owen, and it's a good point. But I think it's a good pickup for the Badgers. Blackwell Lover says, do you think we keep Amari? I do. I do think we keep Amari Latimer. That's one I've heard good things on. Other people have as well. I'd be surprised if we don't hang on to him. But yeah, losing Jaden Petit was a bummer, man. Mike Witt, watching our quarterback play, why would any receiver want to play for us? I'm telling you right now, that was a talking point for players. Why would you go to Wisconsin? You can come to Oklahoma. Look at how we throw the ball. Look at our production. Look at their production. That's a hurdle that this staff has to overcome until they can start producing passing games that target and lure better players here. Eventually, you have to show proof of concept. You want to sell receivers on production. You want to sell them on, you're going to come here and be a big part of an offense that could compete for Big Ten titles. We threw for 75 passing yards last week. Like, if you're Jaden Petit, this is what I'll always say too. And I hope, be frustrated, be annoyed, be sad that you lost a guy like Jaden Petit, but also understand from his perspective, this is a tough sell as a receiver right now. And we're selling a lot of future concept. We're selling when Carter Smith gets more experience and the offensive line gets better and this happens and that happens. Other schools don't have to sell that. Other schools can just say, look at what we did this year. Okay, look at what we've done the last couple of years. You don't have to project anything. It's easier for them to sell that vision. Eventually, the Badgers have to figure this out. Otherwise, it's going to continue to be really difficult to land receivers. Okay, let's keep going here. Robert Sorensen, plus or minus 51.5 rushing yards for Carter Smith today. 51.5. That's a good number. I'm going to say minus because I think he'll take a couple sacks that act against it. I think he finishes with like 30 or 40. I'm going to go under on that one, Robert Sorensen. Bo, the great Bo Dragon. This should be a Jackson Aker day in the snow. I love it. I love him, man. I think he's very Alec Ingold-ish, Brady Ewing-ish. Get him the ball, especially in a running back room that's depleted with injuries. I'm actually not even sure if Gideon's going to play today. I haven't looked, and I haven't really asked that question. But even if he plays, it's still a banged-up running back room. And, Jackson Aker in a snow game when it's cold and people are at the end of a season and a little hurt and a little worn down, throw a bowling ball at him. That's Jackson Aker. It's also Gideon Natuka, but Jackson Aker's a fresh bowling ball. Throw a bowling ball at some pins and see what happens. They're not going to want to tackle a guy like that in the third quarter. Bo says, unless you know who he is blocking, this film is meaningless. See, I disagree. I don't think film is ever meaningless because it's definitely not the be all end all. But when you watch film, watch how they finish plays, watch the athleticism in space. How does he move? There's players that in Wisconsin is a great example. There's players that I've watched in Wisconsin, and it's like he's dominating this competition, but he looks really slow footed. Or every time he stands straight up, or he's finishing every block with tenacity. There's still things you can pick out on film. Don't take this film and say, because he's dominating these kids at and that's not a super high level of high school football. Don't take this film and say he's the next Joe Thomas because of how he looks, but never ignore data points. I'm a big fan of get every data point you can and go from there. Because even if you outweigh your opponent by 100 pounds, like Bo Dragon says, you still can show technique. You can still show the ability to get in space. It's hard for 290-pound guys to block quicker little guys in space. He does that pretty regularly on his film. It's pretty impressive to me. Bird Dogger says he watched Roski at Watoma. Reminds me of him. That's not a bad comp. I still like Big Mike a lot. AJ Max says, I like his ability to break the arms away from the defensive end. Yeah, he did that a couple times on his film. Pretty impressive, along with great mentality at the position. Robert Sorensen says, Ryan, you talked a lot about in the past about plan A guys with players who commit early. What plan are the guys B or C? What plan? Am I reading this wrong? You talked a lot about past. Okay, so yeah, this wasn't a plan A guy for sure. I think he has a talent to be in that tier. And I think they kind of shut down offensive line recruiting when they had two. Now, they took some swings at some massive targets, like a Leo Delaney, who's on this show. I forget the other kid from Colorado. But they kind of struck out on their big targets, so they kind of settled at two. And it felt to me like they shut down recruiting a little bit at the offense line spot, which I don't think you should ever do. So this isn't a plan A guy, but I think he has the talent to be a plan A guy. A couple more questions about Latimer. I do think we signed Latimer. A couple more questions and thoughts here. Baron Von Trout, let's sign a kicker. All right, guys, let's wrap it here. I think we're getting to the end of this one. Also, Michigan, Ohio State starting back up after the halftime. Guys, let's get the axe. Let's finish on this. Let's get the axe. Let's have a good. I mean, it's still not a great season if you finish 5-7, but let's have something to pull us into the offseason with a sail full of optimism unfurled. Let's have something to generate some excitement and hope and some belief coming into this offseason. Because if you beat Minnesota, you best believe this offseason, the entire tenor of it changes. The entire outlook of it changes. It will. And we'll go into next season, and I'll do my part, but we'll go into next season feeling so much more optimistic about this if we finish this off. So let's go beat Minnesota. Let's take that axe. Let's chop down goalposts. Let's send PJ Fleck home on a sad note. Let's sink the boat. Let's get the axe on Wisconsin. And we will definitely be talking after the game. Hopefully we'll be jumping up on that line on Wisconsin. Appreciate all of you so much. See you in a few hours.